Welcome back. It's time now to have our quick press review, and we are very much delighted to have with us our dear guest live here in the studio, our political analyst and diplomatic figure, Ambassador Mohammed Shazli. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
The pleasure is all mine.
And we are going to start immediately, as we do have many headlines, sir, and we are going to start from Al Ahram, if you permit me, where we read its main banner. From Al Ahram, we read, facing all attempts that aim at terrifying the Egyptians and threat their belongings. Al-Sisi says we are looking forward to achieve a leap in our ties with Britain, and this came during his meeting with British Foreign Secretary on Saturday. Al-Sisi says facing terrorism needs a comprehensive international strategy that should extend to demolish its ideological bases. And in his meeting with the state's senior officials, the head of state says, providing the necessary goods at reasonable prices in all governorates and increasing the outlets. Sir, regarding this issue, and we are going to separate it into two. The meeting with the British top diplomat who is here in Egypt for his very first official visit to Egypt after occupying his position as the UK Foreign Secretary. But we are going to focus first on the meeting of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi with our senior officials regarding what happened in Al Arish and moving innocent Christian citizens from their homes who were forced to leave their homes after the mean, coward terrorist attacks on their homes in Al Arish. They moved to Al Ismailia mainly, and to other governorates, but mainly to Al Ismailia. Do you see any connection between what happened of these terrorist attacks and what's going on even as we speak in Jabal al-Halal, cleansing this area from terrorists? Can we consider this as desperate trials or attempts from Daesh or from the terrorists to prove that they are still there and they can do something in front of the efforts exerted by the army and the police to get rid of them and to declare Sinai free of terrorists? What?
I think all terrorist acts, not only in Egypt and in Sinai, are connected. The terror that is going on in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya, what happens in Europe, what happens in Egypt, what happens in Africa, they are all connected to one another. This is a war against terrorism, and we have to build a unified international force against terrorism. I believe, that what we are seeing today is World War IV. We had World War I, we know about it, World War II. World War III was the Cold War, and then
Cold War, yes.
Now I think this is a world war against terrorism. Terrorism is striking all over the globe. No country has been immune against terrorism. The tactics of terrorism is to be ubiquitous. You can't hit them in one place. They don't have a base where you can hit. They don't have official places where they are. Therefore, and this is part of their strength. It is very important that we have a clear definition of terrorism. Terrorism is any act of violence against non-combatants, against civilians, against innocent people who are not carrying arms, whatever their ideology is. The problem with what is happening today is that some countries, unfortunately, look at terrorism according to their agenda. If this violent act serves my agenda, I turn a blind eye and don't say that it is terrorism. If it doesn't serve my agenda, I attack it. No, we cannot go on like this. If you look what is happening in Syria, you have the United States and Russians engaged there. The Russians call some groups freedom fighters. The Americans call them terrorists, and vice versa. You cannot go on like this. We will lose the war against terrorism if we continue in this double standards.
To continue with Al-Akhbar, where we are talking also about the visit of the British top diplomat to Egypt. The president says to the British foreign secretary, the world needs a comprehensive strategy to face terrorism, as you've kindly mentioned, sir. And British foreign secretary Johnson says continued coordination with Egypt to resume the flights to Sharm el-Sheikh. We hope that they are going to resume soon. Presidential spokesperson Ala Youssef said that the president reviewed with the British top diplomat the ongoing economic reform program, referring to Egypt's gratitude to Britain's role in reaching an aid deal with the International Monetary Fund. Sir, regarding this, first, the significance of the visit itself.
I think it reflects the vigor of Egyptian diplomacy, of Egyptian foreign policy. We had the British foreign minister yesterday. I think next week we're getting Chancellor Angela Merkel.
We are going to have her in our coming headlines. But also yesterday, our top diplomat met with, I think, his Angolan and Congo-Brazzaville counterparts. I mean, it's our diplomatic activities moving from the West to Africa, and now he is in Washington to meet with Tillerson, his American counterpart. How do you see our diplomatic activities,
Indeed, this is, as I said, it's a reflection of the vigor of Egyptian diplomacy. We are talking to the Europeans, we are talking to the Africans, we are talking to the Arabs. The president met with King Abdullah of Jordan last week. So this shows that we are having a balanced diplomacy. If you look at our diplomacy at a certain juncture of time, we completely neglected Africa. So so now we are having a balanced diplomacy that is moving vigorously on all fronts, the African, the Arab, the American, the European. And this is a healthy sign because, I mean, you have in diplomacy and in foreign policy, the more contacts you have, the more vigorous
consultations and contacts you have, the more
effective becomes your foreign policy.
We are going to reach a joint vision to face the challenges we are all facing, because terrorism is not a phenomena directed to a certain area or a certain people. It's a global phenomena.
Indeed, indeed.
And to continue with Merkel, as you're kindly mentioning that she is going, inshallah, to be visiting Egypt in the coming few days. From Al-Ahram front page we read, Merkel says Egypt is the axis of stability in the Middle East. German Chancellor Angela Merkel said that Egypt is considered the axis of stability in the troubled Middle East region, and that Cairo worked to preserve peace in the region for a long time. She stressed the need to work for a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict after American President Donald Trump signaled that he could accept a different outcome. Merkel comments in her weekly video message on Saturday came ahead of a March 2nd visit to regional power Egypt, where she said she will discuss the matter with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. Regarding this, sir, I think that in a way or another, all powers all over the world are all the time expecting now from Donald Trump a new decision regarding the vital or the crucial crises or issues worldwide. So, about the nuclear issue with Iran, he had his say. About this Mexico trade deal and the so-called wall between on the borders, this is another issue. Regarding the Middle East peace process, you are going to find him saying something also controversial after this hardliner who he has chosen to be his ambassador in Israel, and the rumors or media reports about moving the embassy to Al-Quds or to Jerusalem. How do you see consulting Egypt in specific as a key player in the Middle East among all these troubles regarding the decisions or the sayings of Donald Trump?
To become a key player, you need certain tools. If you have these tools, you are
a key player.
A key player.
Yeah.
If you look at the Middle East, Egypt has one of the strongest and intact armies in the Middle East.
Yes.
This is a trump card. And then you have Egypt has a very solid diplomatic machine, which is respected all over the world for its professionality, for its expertise and effectiveness. This is a second trump card. Egypt has a very sophisticated media machine, which is also another trump card. Egypt has a very powerful intelligence agency. This also a trump card. Egypt is a country with maybe the highest population in the area. This is also a trump card. Egypt has been heavy. You can have all these tools
together
and not engage yourself. But Egypt has always been engaged in the problems of the whole area, not only the Middle East, Africa, the Islamic
Arab,
world,
Islamic,
the
Mediterranean. We are wearing so many hats.
So this makes Egypt a key player.
Yes.
It has the tools of being a key player. So this, I think, is very
My question, sir, the big powers, and here I mean the Western powers, do you think that they now realized what you're talking about? I mean, on the ground, they know that they cannot move, especially when it comes to the Middle East, without consulting Egypt?
I think they have always known that, and they have never disregarded this fact. At a certain time, they tried to neutralize Egypt. You know, Egypt has been facing very troubling times since 2011. And during this time, several regional and international powers have been trying to neutralize Egypt. These efforts have failed.
Amen to that.
And Egypt is still intact. Egypt is still potent, and Egypt is still the pillar of the regional system, whether it is the Arab, the African, the Mediterranean, or the Islamic.
From Al Ahram front page, we read full governmental support for the victims to terrorism in Sinai. The Prime Minister says all the support and the securing to them. And to Al-Azhar, which says our unity is the secret of Egypt's strength and the cowardly attempts shall not affect that unity. The same issue is tackled in Al-Akhbar. Egypt erupts to protect its citizens in Sinai, settling the moving of the families to Al-Ismailiyah. Al-Sisi says we shall bury the plans of terrifying the people. And social solidarity Minister Ghada Wali says the social solidarity shall be responsible for the costs of living till the families return to their home. In Al-Masri Al-Yawm, we continue to read, the state moves to face the crisis of the flee of the Christians of Sinai and Operation Room around the clock. And the president gives his directives regarding facing any attempt to destabilize the country. Sir, of course, the Coptic Orthodox Church condemned the attacks which undermine the country's unity. But, sir, how do you see the media dealing with this issue?
I think, you know, this is a very important issue. First of all, we have to refuse 100% calling this an Islamic act.
Sure.
This is a cowardly, uncivilized act.
And it has nothing to do with Islam,
Nor
nor with any religion, by the way.
Or by any religion.
Yes.
All religions come from God, and God asks us for decency, for compassion, for love. God does not preach killing unarmed civilians in this horrendous way. This, you know, whenever a party is weak, they turn to the way that hurts the weak. You find Israel, when they are cornered, they bomb Gaza and kill women, children, and elderly people, and unarmed people. In the Second World War, the Germans started by the Blitz against civilians in England, and then the Allies turned to bombing civilians in Germany, and so on. This is an act of cowardly, uncivilized people or groups. As you know, I agree very much with Al-Azhar's declaration that the way to combat this is a unified front of all Egyptians against this terror and against this uncivilized actions.
Inhumane, to be accurate. Well, we are going to end with the nuclear Dab'a reactor, and we are going to go to unanimous agreement on the nuclear dream in the first social dialogue. The citizens of Dab'a say we are the guardians of the peaceful nuclear project. Sir, with or against entering the nuclear era?
You know, the nuclear era is a scientific horizon, and all the developed countries have moved towards this horizon. In Europe, in Russia, in the United States, in South America, in Asia, the Japanese, the South Koreans, and by entering this new horizon, you get technical expertise. Nuclear physics today is one of the vanguards of scientific development. We should not miss. We are already very late in joining the nuclear
but better late than
club. Better late than never, and also